Have you got an avoidant personality? Perhaps you can feel yourself shutting down when things get tough with another person. Perhaps you don't care, never did, and you're fine on your own, and you don't need anyone. Perhaps you've identified your triggers now that you're slightly older. Maybe you've had more life experiences and have even tried to soften your mindset on this personality type by calling it useful or thinking it useful if people leave you or start pulling away from you. Perhaps your defense mechanisms then trigger. All emotions turn off and you feel you have control and power to say, well, I never really cared about them anyway. Maybe you've noticed now as you're older, or you've had more experiences, that a pattern has become clear about your behaviour. Perhaps you've noticed that cutting people out blatantly seems to serve a purpose at the time, but after a few years in some cases, you reflect back and think, maybe those people weren't so bad. Maybe you miss them somehow. Maybe you've identified that your personality trait may not always be so useful after all. Let's talk about the whys for a moment. Now, quite clearly, you are you and I am me, and I don't know your personal story. But perhaps once upon a time, someone when you were younger deeply hurt you, left you, or it became abundantly clear there was no trust between you and them at all. There would have been a time that you decided to protect yourself and gave yourself deep love and care not to get hurt like that again. And that was a good move at the time. A safe move at the time. A self-care and kindness move at the time. A protection move at the time. The defense mechanism that you set up when you were younger at the time was the correct choice. You protected yourself. You looked after yourself first above whatever the painful situation was, and looked after yourself by shutting down your emotions and the ability for whoever that hurt you never to be able to do that to you again. Forbidden to do it again. Impossible to do it again. And you know what? Perhaps that was indeed a perfectly decent and good idea. But let's think about the now, the present. Your life now. Is this defense mechanism working well for you now? Or perhaps it's tilted more on the negative side, perhaps. Perhaps connection with people has become an issue, that you are no longer so happy to have such a distance. Perhaps when something happens now, you're exceptionally well trained in your defense mechanism. It's far too good, far too efficient, and cuts off all your emotions in an instant. Where you protect yourself overly to someone who's proved themselves to be trustworthy, kind, and capable of love, perhaps deep down you know they deserve more affection, understanding, and love, but you feel your defenses are so strong that they're uncontrollable. Perhaps you hear yourself saying, I don't need you, I don't care, I don't love you, or I can make it on my own, I need no one. Perhaps at the time of saying these things, you feel you deeply mean them. I have no doubt they feel extremely real and strong, and perhaps solid and unbreakable. You have developed and trained them for so many years to protect yourself, and your mind is exceptionally clever and will become a master of things it repeats and practices on a daily basis. You are excellent at this. You're a master at this. But, deep down you know it's not necessary with certain people. Deep down, when the dust settles, you know you want people and need people. You miss people when the dust settles, and perhaps contemplate that you didn't need to cut them out. You are highly skilled at turning off your emotions to protect yourself. You are daily practiced for many, many years. This is now a perfectly performed subconscious protection mechanism. It was developed and mastered for good reasons. It was necessary at the time. It was completely necessary for a certain person or certain people so that you could protect yourself, and that's excellent. You cut off your emotions to those people, which was necessary to protect yourself. However, this defense mechanism is not for everyone, and you have noticed it's not quite as useful as it was. You want to soften this trait, to open up to trustworthy and kind people, to improve your happiness in life. You want to be content. You want deep, meaningful relationships with worthwhile people, trustworthy people. So it's time to understand your trait more. Your trait and defense mechanism for shutting down all your emotions to a person to protect yourself now needs to be deeply analysed for you to step forward into a healthier, fuller, and more connected, loving life. You will open up your heart and soul to those who truly deserve it. You know in your soul who is safe and who is trustworthy, as we all have exceptionally good inner voice and gut instincts to tell us so. Your overactive avoidant personality trait is not going to be eradicated or dismissed. It is just going to be channeled to the people who actually deserve it. Think of the person or people that it was designed for in the first place. These people are the people that you created the trait for, and this is where the trait sticks and stays forever. They get that trait from you, perhaps forever, due to their actions they once showed you that were deeply unacceptable. Some people in the world are good, some people are bad, and some make mistakes. You know in your heart who they are. If they deserve you to keep the avoidant personality trait, then anchor that feeling to them only. They deserve the maximum power from your defense mechanism, so keep it for them forever. But no, it's only for them. And you can now let go of this trait with the other people if they don't deserve it. You must give yourself high praise of how talented you are at this trait. It's actually a brilliant protection defense, but not with everyone. There are around 7 billion people in the world, and some people deserve more of you, and some people don't. Through experience and multiple situations and learning about people and feeling into people's personalities over long periods of time, you will know if these people are trustworthy and whether they deeply care about you. Some people will, and some people won't. If you identify that somebody with multiple examples and hundreds of evidences that they care about your feelings and deeply care about you, this type of person has proved that they deserve more of you. Soften. Everyone through your life will have good and bad days. You'll have many arguments that will kick off due to life frustrations. And this is where you may feel your old triggers surface. But this is when you need to slow time down. Breathe. Take a moment. Think. Count to 5 if necessary. When you feel your trigger, count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Take this moment to think to the future. Don't just stay in the moment. Don't just stay in the present. Think of the future and analyze the past with this person too. Flicker back and forth to your past experiences and your future. Think about all the past experiences with this person. Have they been good to you? Have you been happy? Are they kind? Have they proved that they care about you before? Think to the future. Do you really want them in your life? Do you really want them there next week? Do you want them there next month, next year? If you do, soften. See that they're just having a bad day, a bad moment. We all do. They're having a frustration, perhaps. We're all human and deserve an allowance of frustrations. Perhaps they have a lot on their plate and actually need help. If you analyse the past and future and consider this person properly, have they proved otherwise to being kind? Because if they have, then you have a powerful superpower that can be perfectly delivered and administered. But do you really need to do that? Do you really need to cut off all your emotions and run in this moment? Is it really necessary? Because if you do it, remember you are a master of this trait. It will be perfect on delivery. You may very well end up pulling away when you really didn't need to. Are they kind? Do they care? Do they really love you? Do you want them in your life in a week, in a month, in a year? Remember, this superpower of yours can be isolated to certain people who really deserve it. You can isolate your trait. The people who deserve it deserve it. It's a superpower if used correctly. But just because you own it and you're a master of it, it doesn't mean you have to use it.